on this episode of Behind the Scenes Beauty.
Jordan Cooper is definitely someone to be on the lookout for. Jordan made history last November by being one of the youngest playwrights on Broadway for his show, Aint no Mo, along with being the youngest showrunner in TV history for this Emmy-nominated television sitcom, The Miss Pat Show. This Texas native and Obie Award winner talks to us about his journey into playwriting. He also shares how he handles being underestimated so young, as well as what it looks like to work with the acclaimed Lee Daniels. Jordan Cooper shares the road to Broadway and how he became the writer and the producer of The Miss Pat Show. Jordan also proves that you're never too young for your dreams to come true.
All right, you are tuned in to another episode of Behind the Scenes Beauty. I am so elated to have with me, he's one of the youngest playwrights on Broadway. He has an Obie Award, he has an Emmy nomination, and he has an amazing show called The Miss Pat Show that is now coming out with his third season.
Yes.
We have with us none other than the Mr. Jordan Cooper, sir. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Listen, I'm proud of me because I got all of that out.
Let's go, you made it.
I had no teleprompter, nothing.
You did it, off the dome.
Listen, I've been studying you all morning, so I'm so excited.
Thank you.
So first of all, on Behind the Scenes Beauty, we always ask people like their beginning stages, where they're from, what kind of family did you grow up in, all that kind of stuff. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, I'm from Hurst, Texas, originally, which is right outside of Fort Worth. I grew up in a very small town. We have a Walmart, but it's small.
Okay, same.
I feel like if you got a Walmart, it's not like a Bodunk. You know what I mean? You
Right,
can make it work.
Right.
So grew up there, not a very like artistic, theater-oriented town, but I was such a theater and a theater geek and entertainment nerd. Grew up in a family that also wasn't really like entertainment-based. Everybody, did their own things. Very football lovers, and I came with arts.
Right.
I mean? But the cool thing about my parents and my family was that even when they didn't understand it, they always supported it. You know what I mean? They always pushed me. They always, elevated me to that.
So do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother. He's 35, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 35. He has his own pressure washing business.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really, really dope. I'm the oddball.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm
Not
the
at
oddball,
all.
which is really, really dope. Grew up there, so doing my plays in the living room and doing them in the backyard and at the church and doing all these things. And thankfully, like my community supported me. You know what I mean? They always pushed me forward. I would like mow lawns to like make money to rent out spaces. I had my first credit card. I maxed out to rent out a space.
Okay.
And then I worked at a local theater selling concessions and then like cleaning the bathrooms and ushering. And then I went from ushering to stage managing to doing the lights and building the sets and doing the costumes. So like I just had all these different areas of things that
So
I would
how
do.
old are you when you are doing this? Like, because you're already young.
Yeah,
That's the mind-blowing aspect. You're already young. So I'm like, how old are you doing this?
Yes, doing that. I probably started working at that theater when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're putting on your first play. You put on your first play at how old?
I put on my first play probably at 8. Probably at 8.
Okay, so what was the theme of that play? Like, what is? do you remember?
I don't remember. I feel like I had so many iterations of it. No, it was called What Goes On Behind Closed Doors. That's what it was.
That was deep.
What goes on?
I
know, right? I know, right? I thought I was doing something. But no, I always tell a story how I'm always just like super honest in my writing. I always say the thing that a lot of people want to say. So like I remember somebody pulling my mom aside because I was like putting church business in the play.
Oh.
And they're like, you need to tell yourself.
He listening too much. Everybody knew to stop talking when you came around.
Literally. I was that kid. I was the grown folk business.
Okay.
And it ended up in a play.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't know how to do anything else but that.
Right.
I didn't know how to do anything else. And it's so crazy because my pastor, he would let me do these plays at the church. Thankfully, he was so gracious and literally he like let us like drill into the wall so I could build a curtain that would like go across the sanctuary so I could have a curtain. Like, and it's still there to this day.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's still there to this day.
So do they, when you go back, do they like, oh my God, Jordan's back. We just look how far he's come. They're so proud of you.
Literally, yeah.
I got you.
So grateful.
All right, so you didn't have any, so are you taking any writing courses in high school or anything?
No, everything just really came organically. I learned everything just from watching and doing. So like I used to always love my English teachers. My English teachers were always my best friends because I would write a play and then like I would give it to them and they would mark it up for edits or like give me notes and things like that.
Okay.
So like I just always loved doing it. I never had any like formal training or did any kind of, I took workshops. Like there was this workshop called DVA workshop by this local legend. Her name was Sharon Goodspeed Keaton, and she really took me under her wing because she saw that like, oh, you're an artist. Like she was the first person to call me an artist. It was like, oh, that's what I call it. Am I allowed to call myself that?
Right.
She was like, no, you're like, you do this, you do that, you do that. You're an artist. And so she started these like workshops where she would like teach us like how to go on the audition and how to do these things and how to do that. And so that came at such a fruitful point in my life. I was still around 13, 14 around then. So by the time I actually got in an audition room, it was like I knew what a slate was and I knew how to do things.
Oh, you was pulled together.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to college and you knowing you were going for theater.
Oh, absolutely. I had written a play, that same theater I was working at. I became their artist in residence my senior year of high school. And I wrote a play that they did. It was called Black Boy Fly. It was based off a Kendrick Lamar song. And it was crazy because we had sold out audiences, but it was like all these young people, like all these young black folks in the audience. They're like, where are all these people coming from? I'm like, it's Kendrick Lamar.
Right.
But did that, and it was like a pay what you can from the community. It was really, really cool. And the money from that pay what you can got me through my first year, got me to New York so I can get to my first year of college at the new school in New York. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and you went through, graduated, all that good stuff.
Yeah, went through, graduated, wrote plays, did more stuff. Yeah, I just always moving.
Okay, so had you always, because I did get to come to see you in Ain't No More with Whoopi. She came, she wanted to definitely be there to support you. And I noticed you were acting in that. I want to go back and say, were you always having the intention to just be a playwright, or did you always want to do both? Did you want to act?
I always wanted to do both.
Okay.
I wasn't always a fan of being in my own stuff. I was very like separate. You know what I mean? Because I never want to force myself into a world. But that happened kind of by accident because I'd written the show and I had another actor in mind for it, and we did like a workshop reading. And I kept trying to like get it in this actor's blood, but he just wasn't like, it wasn't clear to him. Like it wasn't coming through. And so it got to the point where like I was giving him line readings. I was like, no, do it like this. He do it like that. And he just was not getting it. And so we ended up having to let him go hours before the performance. And my director, Stevie, was like, Jordan, I was like, what are we gonna do? He was like, Jordan, you know this character in this play more than anybody. You better animate, you gonna get up on that stage, you go. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I did it, and it fit like a glove. And the audience went crazy.
Right.
It was just such a good time. And I was like, oh, I usually don't like to be in my own stuff, but I was like, this actually works. This feels good. And I did that character ever since, yeah.
Because like watching you, like I followed you. So, because I found the Miss Pat show. I feel like I'm speeding ahead because there's so much stuff that I want to go back and talk to you to lead up. But I'm just saying, I used to watch the Miss Pat show. So when I started seeing the interviews and I saw you, and then I realized how young you were, and I always was so surprised. And then I heard about the play coming out. So I was thinking of you as this behind the scenes person. And then I get to the play, because in my head, I still don't know until I'm like, that's him. So I'm like, oh my God, he acts too. So I'm like, oh, he is really killing it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that I got that out, let me scale back. So let's talk about like your first big break. So like, okay, so what's going on? You're grinding, you're doing Ain't No More. You had already written Ain't No More.
Yeah, I was doing Ain't No More. I just finished doing this musical that I wrote called Alice Wonder, which I'm bringing back again soon at some point. And then I moved on to Ain't No More, did Ain't No More, and then we did a workshop of it at the Public, and Lee Daniels saw that workshop, and he was like, yo, like, where have you been? Like, you're an amazing writer. Like, we should do something. Like, you should write on my shows. You should, you know what I mean? And then I was like, cool, yeah. Like, I never really wanted to do TV. I loved TV, but there was something about it that always just looked so hard. I was like, ugh, like, I'd rather stick to a play. Meanwhile, TV writers are like, how do you write a play? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I'd rather just stick to a play, like, you know what I mean? because I like to tell a full story. There's
Right.
something about telling stories in pieces that always, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Even though I love sitcoms.
Right.
And so I remember he was like, yo, speaking of like TV, like I have this comedian that we're looking for a show for her. We don't have a concept. And we would like to see if you would read her book and see if you can come up with a concept for a show. So flash
And how old
backwards.
were you at this time?
I was 23. I
Okay.
was 23.
So I this is not my world.
Yeah.
Is writing for a show like that, is that something common to be 23 years old?
No, not at all.
And
not
then
at all.
to be
Yeah.
honest, I mean, if I'm just putting it out there, the life experience to write for this grown woman
I know, right?
with the story and the backstory
Yeah.
that she has.
Yeah.
But continue.
Yes. Okay. So flash backwards. Years ago, I was in high school and my dad saw Miss Pat on a daytime talk show, and he was like, "Yo, you're gonna love this woman. You gotta watch it. Like she's funny. She had a crazy life. She's been shot twice. Was a drug dealer. Went to prison, and now she's a comedian." And so I was like, okay, so I watched it and I fell in love, but simply because she does what I like to do in my writing, which is like laugh with the pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Find a way to take your strength back by laughing at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, like she does need a show. She needs to write a book or something. And so 2 years later, she wrote a book about her life. And I was in college and I couldn't afford the book because it was like $35. I need to save my money for a 4-for-4 at Wendy's because that was my ministry at the time.
Right.
And so I screenshot it. I was like, I'm gonna come back and read this. Flash forward a year later, I write, ain't no more. Lee Daniels was like, I want you to read this book because we're trying to come up with a concept for this comedian. It was Miss Pat. So I was just happy to get the book.
Right.
So I read it and I immediately saw the sitcom in my head because I'm a big fan of sitcoms because to me, sitcom is just theater with cameras, right? And so I was like, what if we did like a R-rated family sitcom in front of a live studio audience? And that was the concept. And thankfully, you know, she went with me, she met me, and she was like, she came to see a show, and she was like, Negro, you write like a big black woman. She was like, I don't know how you this young and you write like that. And so she loved me, and so she was like, just write something. And so I sent her a draft of the pilot. And she called me and she said, I can't say nigga on TV. And I said, yes, you can. That's how you talk. She was like, nigga, I don't motherfucking talk like that. I said, you talking like that now? She's like, I can't let these white folks read this. We can't put this on TV. I was like, yes, we can. Who says we can? She was like, okay, let's try it. And so we did it. We sent it in. And Fox did not want me. Because in the beginning, they were at Fox. And they did not want me. Before even reading any of my stuff, Pat was like, oh, Lee Daniels was like, oh, we have this kid, like he's in college, Pat loves him, like let's give him a chance to see if he can create the show. And they were like, are you kidding? We're not giving a television show to a senior in college. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And so Lee was like, kind of like, oh yeah, they said they're not gonna take it. And then Pat was like, I need you to do me a favor. And I was like, what? She was just write the pilot. I was like, what? She was like, just write the pilot. So I wrote the pilot and she took my name off of it and she gave it to Lee. And Lee was like, who wrote this? And she was like, I did. And he was like, no, you didn't, bitch, because everything spelled right. And she was like, all right, Jordan wrote it. So they sent it to Fox and Fox was like, where did this come from? Who is this? And they were like, it's that kid you didn't want to hire. And then that's where it started. That's where it started, yeah.
Okay, so, but it goes to Fox and then...
Yeah, it goes to Fox. Then Fox moves it to Fox 21 because now I've added like a cursing element. Yeah. And I made it a sitcom, a multicam in front of an audience. So they were like, okay, this is a Fox 21. So Fox 21 then took it to Hulu. We sold it to Hulu and Hulu shot the pilot. This was a process. Okay. So Hulu shot the pilot. Mind you, there were no really black executives on their team at the time. So they didn't really, like the young people got it, the young executives got it, but the top executive was like, what I don't get, what are kitchens? Why is there a joke about the kitchens? And like, what is that? And why is this funny? And not really understanding the culture. Yeah. And so I remember we were in the process and they bought it. And then like we were looking for directors. And I remember I was watching A Different World at the time. I was like, what if we got Debbie Allen to direct the pilot? And so I called Pat. I was like, Pat, what if we got Debbie Allen? She's like, Debbie Allen ain't gonna do this shit. She was like, Debbie Allen don't curse. You know who she is? She's Black American princess. She can't, you know what I mean? Okay, guys, so guess who's directing my first television pilot called The Miss Pat Show?
Holla!
Hey!
It's a winner, baby.
Yes,
we're
we
getting
got a
ready
lot
to
of
change
fun.
a lot of things. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be fun.
This young man is so gifted. Love you, honey.
I love you. I was like, no, we should do it. So we take it to the powers that be, and they were like, Debbie Allen, who's that?
They didn't even know who Debbie Allen was?
Yes. They were like, Debbie Allen, who's that? And we were
Shonda
like,
Rhimes working with Debbie Allen?
Listen. And then we were like, you don't know who Debbie Allen is? And then they Google and they're like, oh, she works on Grey's Anatomy. They were like, but can she do a sitcom? And I was like, a different
Cosby
world, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all that. And they were like, oh, but that was so long ago. You think she could still you think she's still hip? She could still do it? I said, do you ask Martin Scorsese if he could still make a film?
Right.
Like, what are you talking? What are we talking about here? So finally, they were like, okay, we could do Debbie Allen. We did Debbie Allen, and she loved the script. Loved the script, which we were like, you love the script?
Right,
like, okay, let's do
right.
it. And so we did it, and we shot it, and it was a big experiment for me because I was like, I've never seen an R-rated sitcom, especially with a black family before.
Right.
So it was like a big experiment waiting for that live audience to laugh for the first time. And I was like, please stop. Please stop. And they loved it, and they ate it up. But Hulu didn't end up picking it up, which is crazy because a little birdie told me that they didn't think the main person didn't think it was gonna work. He didn't get it. So he was like, let's test it. Usually when a network says, let's test it, that means they don't really believe in it and
Right.
they wanna see like what people are gonna say.
Right.
They tested it, ended up being their highest tested pilot ever at the time. Highest tested pilot. But because the one person up top didn't understand it and didn't get why she was yelling at her kids and didn't get,
Right.
they ended up dropping it. But it ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to us.
And that is crazy because it's so, when I watched it, it's so relative to black life.
Yeah.
The way the mama talk. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how black mothers talk to their kids for
Literally.
the most part. I don't want to generalize,
Right,
but I saw people that I know
Yeah.
and then, like you said, the nigger word, the cursing, it was all very relatable.
Yeah.
And clearly to white families too.
Right.
Because we act like white
Right.
families don't
They
talk to their parents.
like they don't
kids
talk,
and
right,
stuff,
exactly.
But they
They
do
do the same thing. They
Yeah.
do the same thing, you know.
So how old are you when this process is happening? And what are
Yes.
you doing in the process when you're waiting for it to get picked up? Because what is your life like at that point?
Yeah. I was 24 when we shot the pilot. I was 23 when we sold the show.
Okay.
And I was writing on Star. I was helping out with
Okay.
Star. And so that's why I was in LA for a little bit at that time.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but you told me, Mom, I did not want to hurt you. This lie has been weighing itself down on me, and I can't hold it no more. I'm just too tired.
Helping out on that, and then we sold it while I was out here working on that. And then after that, that's when I went to New York to do the first production of Aint No More Off Broadway.
Okay.
And I did that, and then when we closed that off Broadway, then that's when I came back to LA to shoot the pilot for the show. Yeah.
For the Miss Bay.
Yeah.
And then, so what were your thoughts when it, like, the first season goes through and you start getting the accolades? What is going through your mind?
It's wild, you know? It was like what was beautiful about it was it felt like a hypothesis come true. Like it felt like a lot of people doubted it. A lot of people doubted it and they didn't know if it would work because it was so bold and the topics that we were talking about and how, you know what I mean? But it was cool to see the audience respond in the way that I felt like they would respond, which is like just a breath of fresh air.
Yo, Jordan, it's Norman Lear here. How you doing? I'm calling because I just did an interview, a kind of interview, a conversation with Miss Pat, who I think is fabulous. Saw the pilot, think it's fabulous. Know you're the showrunner, think you're fabulous. But I didn't get a chance to say hello, and I wanted to say hello to you. Your next 9 shows, I wish you all the luck in the world. You only need some of that because you're terrific and the show is wonderful and it's lovely coming to know you this way.
Like we could actually have these conversations and they can be funny, and we can put conversations in living rooms that would otherwise would have never had conversations about non-binary people and about, you know, Black men in depression and about all these different things that are pertinent to our community, but we rarely have the language to talk about it. It's usually, when it is in Black households, it's usually because it's being spat at them and they don't necessarily understand it, but they have a child who might identify as something, right? But they don't necessarily know how to approach it. And so I wanted to create something that would give them the tools to be able to have conversations, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how are you processing the newfound, like, because you're young.
Yeah.
And so what is going through your mind when things are happening for you? And now you have this new open space. You're not in Struggleville anymore.
Right.
You're not in Struggleville anymore. You're finally, because what all were your titles? You weren't just a writer, but you were, or are you executive producer,
yeah, I was
showrunner?
a writer, executive producer, showrunner, director.
So you directed how many episodes?
3. This past season was my first time directing on the show. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what is your thoughts when they say, okay, we love this, the second season is coming? Which now you're in your third.
Yeah, now we're in the third.
Because everyone knows it's always that first season hump you got to get over.
Oh, yeah. It was, I think once we saw the audience response, it was so overwhelming that they actually renewed us a week after it dropped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a week after it dropped. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wild.
So you didn't even have to do that whole waiting game, like,
no,
are they gonna pick it up?
Thankfully, mainly just because it was a new platform, and so they didn't really have anything that was like popping just yet. But also, it was just the people demanded. It was like the people demanded it. You know, it was like going viral on TikTok and going viral on Twitter. Like, we just dropped the new season, like literally yesterday, and now it's like somebody posted a video on TikTok and it has like 3.2 million views on TikTok.
That's crazy.
And it's like, it's wild. Like, just to see the interaction and the engagement with the show and the material is.
The final episode of the first season was amazing, might I add. That was like heart-wrenching and real and all of that. I mean, I won't say anything about it for those who still need to do catch up, but it was amazing and
Thank you.
I loved it. So how have you personally managed the fame though? Like what's changed in your life? What have been some of the hurdles, the things you had to like work through?
Yeah, I think for me, it's I'm grateful that I'm still a lot of my closest friends are still the same friends I was broke with.
Right.
I'm grateful for that, and that everybody's like growing together and on the come up. But I think also, you know, getting used to being recognized is a new thing too. Like walking into spaces and be like, oh, and I'm like, oh, you know me, like, you know what I mean? Hey. And so that's something new. But then also it's like, you know, one of the things that I've been trying to deal with and I've been dealing with is the idea that like I love working so much, but I know that I work a lot and I need rest. And then I get rest, and as soon as I get rest, I'm like, I feel like I've never done anything before.
Right.
I feel like I'm just a bum living on my couch. You know what I mean? It's like I tell myself all these lies of like what I'm not doing and what I shouldn't be doing and what I should be doing. But it's like, Jordan, you deserve rest. Like, you've been working nonstop for the past year. Like, it's okay to take, you know, a month or two and like breathe. But my brain will not let me rest. But I'm trying to fight that urge because it also helps me. It helps me generate. But also, it's like, take that time for yourself to really just allow yourself to be. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so. At the same time that you're getting the Miss Pat show off the ground, are you now also working on Ain't No More? Because I feel like those were working simultaneously to get it to Broadway. Because you've already done it off Broadway, but now you're taking it Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely. So all that was in the work, trying to get a theater, but then COVID hit us. And when COVID hit us, that set us back a lot. Because we had so many plans. We were supposed to go to London, and then we were supposed to come back to Broadway. Like, it was supposed to be a whole thing, but COVID just nixed a lot of things in the kibosh. But that's why I was grateful for the Miss Pat show, because at that time, Broadway was shut down, theater was shut down, but I was able to have my little slice of theater with this live audience in this little soundstage, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So tell me about the opening monologue where Miss Pat is like, she's sort of doing her comedy bit, speaking to the people, and then it goes into the theatrics.
Yeah. So I wanted to lean into the theatricality of sitcom. Like I said, it's theater with cameras.
Right.
So I just love the idea of her speaking to the actual live audience that is there, so people know it's not a laugh track. You know what I mean? She's actually speaking to the live audience about whatever topic the episode is going to be about, and then we go into like it just theatrically moves into this transition, like in the pilot, how she's standing in a pool of light and she's giving this thing, and all of a sudden this airplane comes from the side of her, and then the scene starts, the light shift, and the scene starts. You know
was
what I mean?
very
theater.
Yeah.
Like I love stuff like that. So I really wanted to lean into the liveness of the show. It's called the Miss Pat Show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like a lot of my favorite shows were like the Carol Burnett Show, or like Martin, or I Love Lucy. All these things that felt alive. You know what I mean?
And is she just trusting you? Is she just trusting your vision?
She just trusts you. She just trusts me, like literally, which is crazy because she doesn't trust anybody.
I was gonna say she doesn't. She doesn't look like the trusting type.
Oh no, she doesn't trust anybody. But I think there was something in me that she saw, and then when it actually worked, she was like, "Oh, I F with him." You know what I mean? It was like, "Oh, he knows what he's talking about." And she just lets me interpret how I want to interpret, and she's just open game, which is the best kind of actress to work with. It's like somebody who's just down for whatever. You know what I mean? Like I will have her doing whatever, and she's like, "All right, Jordan, if that's really what you want to do, let's do it."
Because are you a very fast learner for most things? Because I'm thinking like, how do you get to the point where you go straight in and you're already a showrunner and you're already like, like these are things that, and so you learn most of this doing Star?
Yeah, no, not even Star. I learned writer's room during Star.
Okay.
But before then, it was like, this is the thing. And I always say this to people who want to break into this business. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Everybody's just faking
Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody pretends to be experts at things. And it's like, I was doing my independent films and I was doing my plays. And like I said, I was building sets and I was playing with cameras and I was doing all this. And so you look up at Hollywood and you're like, oh, I can't do that. I can just do what I'm doing over here. You know, they're doing they're masters at that thing. Mm-hmm. And then you get to Hollywood and you're like, wait, y'all don't know what y'all doing? Everybody's just throwing things to the wall, and they're like only as good as their last. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, actually, like if art is your thing, you know how to do it. Right. You know what I mean? And so because I was already a geek, now I'm just a geek with a budget. Right. Now I'm just a geek with a bigger budget, and I can see, oh, this is how they do that. That's how they do this. That's how they do this. And I take everything that I learned when I didn't have no money, when I didn't have no resources, and I bring that to now I have money and now I have resources. Gotcha. And that's kind of how it works. Like I never waited for anybody to give me a green light. Gotcha. I never waited for anybody to like say, yes, you can do this. It's like, no, I'm gonna create my own yes. I mean, it may not have the biggest budget, it may not look the best, but it's like I got the story outside of myself, you know?
Did you ever get pushback because you're so young and everyone's feeling like you don't know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But they learn quickly. They learn quickly.
You got them together?
Because this is the thing. People have tried me. They always try me. But like, usually how they learn is when I say to do something and they say no, and then I force them to do it and they see it works and they're like, oh. Like literally I've gotten calls from titans in this industry who have been in this industry working for the past 45 years. I wanted them to do something. They disagreed. I said, this is what we're doing, so do it. Right. They do it, and then they call me back and they're like, actually, bro, like that thing that you said you wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, it works. So I got to give you
your props. What is your confidence to do that when you haven't done it before?
Because I know what I want to see.
Right, okay.
Because I work as an audience member. Gotcha. I work as an audience. I'm a lover of the thing first. Gotcha. So it's like, I know that I'm tired of seeing the same thing. I'm tired, like I'm ready for people to shake it up. Let's do it a different way. Let's tell different stories. And so that's why it's like, I'm kind of fearless in it, that which I'm grateful for to God, because it's like, I don't go in with this like respect of persons of like, oh my gosh, I'm in this room. Just be grateful to be in the room. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, no, yes, you're grateful to be in the room, but you still have a job to do. Exactly. And at the end of the day, I have to execute what it is that is rocking with me and my spirit. You know what I mean? And the minute that I do that is when I know it's right. If all is well with my spirit, then I'm good.
You're such an old soul, though. That's so crazy. How many people tell you that?
A lot of people. Okay. A lot of people.
Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about something. So you're getting ready you were taking Ain't No More to Broadway. So when you finally heard that they were gonna actually take it to Broadway, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I jumped up and down. I screamed. I was a little boy. The little boy inside of me was just elated because I'm a Broadway geek too, just like I'm a television geek. Like I've always wanted to be on Broadway. That was my like introduction to like, oh, this is how big a thing can be. You know what I mean?
So what's the process to get to Broadway? Like what is like? Yeah. I don't think I ever knew what do you.
It's a process. It's a process. So really, all Broadway is really truly about is real estate.
Gotcha.
The Broadway theaters and the Broadway owners, think about like, you know when a plane is trying to land at the airport and it's like circling the airport until it finds a space where it can land? That's what Broadway is.
Gotcha.
There are tons of shows that are circling these Broadway theaters, and it's really about real estate, money, and interest.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, that's really all it's about. You know? And that's why it took us so long to get to Broadway, but was one because of COVID, but also because of, waiting for a house to open.
Gotcha.
You know?
And then too, I heard in an interview where they were telling Lee he should have used stars. Was that a huge thing that you had to overcome too? Because
it was, yeah, because people, that's where, once again, like, and this is why I keep telling people, it's like Broadway is not the same Broadway that we were used to pre-COVID.
Gotcha.
After COVID, money looking a little funny.
Right.
So if John and Carol coming down from wherever, they're gonna put their money on what they know is gonna be good. That's Michael Jackson. That's you know what I mean. The Lion King.
Right.
That's things that they know and they know. You know what I mean. They're not gonna put their money in something that they've never heard of. You know what I mean.
Right.
So even if it's something that people have never heard of, if you put Denzel in it, you put Samuel Jackson in it, you put Oprah in it, people are gonna spend their money there, right? Because they want to see them.
Right.
And why it's different for a new show with like not a famous name is because people don't know what it is. You have to tell them what it is, right? And so most of the work is about getting it out to the community and marketing out to the community, which is where Ain't No Mo fell into its trap, which was really, this was my biggest thing, is that I worked so hard to get to Broadway. Like even though I'm young and people are like, you just got, but I'm like, no, I've been working since I was 8 years old, like working, you know what I mean? And I thought that like when you get to Broadway, it's Broadway. You know what I mean? Like all you have to do is focus on the work being good. Right. That's what I thought. And so I got to Broadway and I was focused on the work being good. Little did I know
that it wasn't just about that.
It wasn't just about that. It was that I couldn't rely on the same marketing tools that a lot of other people can rely on because it's not necessarily built for my audience, you know, and they don't necessarily know how to reach out to my audience, you know. And I think that's what I wish I could do over is really like going in, being the same 10-year-old Jordan or the same college Jordan who was standing in Times Square handing out flyers to his plays, you know what I mean? Is that like not depending on a marketing team, no shade to them, because really all they can do is their job, right? And they can only work with the tools that they've been given. Right. And my problem is that we need new tools. Right. You know what I mean? We need new tools. I always say the same way that the government is strategic about putting a liquor store in a black neighborhood, Broadway needs to be strategic about putting billboards in black neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Letting people know, because we don't think it's for us, when really it is. But we don't think that, like why our name isn't on the door. Why would I spend $200 is Beyonce gonna be there? Like, why would I spend $200 to go somewhere? One, that to see something that probably doesn't interest me, and then also to be policed when I'm in the space. Right. For me to make noise, or me to shout back or talk back, and somebody look at me like I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like I've had that experience, even being a theater lover as I am. You know what I mean? I'll go to a matinee, I'll be like, yes! All these white people turn around, look at me like, who is?
Like, why is
he's
ruining our experience?
Exactly. So it's really about shifting some bigger structures. And the fight that I was doing is like, you know, it's not just about Ain't No Mo, it's really about the structure of theater as a whole. We say we want these things, but we have to come out and support them. You know what I mean? We have to show that there's an audience.
Do you wish you had casted a name in it?
Absolutely not.
Not?
No, only because the actors that were putting in the work on that stage,
they were amazing.
They put in more work than I think any celebrity. If it was a cast full of celebrities, you wasn't gonna get that same quality.
Gotcha.
You weren't gonna get that same quality. And I think that they told the story, you know?
Okay, so when it was abruptly like coming to an end, like, cause you guys do your opening and then a few weeks later, you're hearing that you're having to close.
So, right before we went on stage, there was an announcement that Ain't No Mo will be closing on Broadway next Monday. we have had a hard time getting our audience in here, even though the reviews have been great. Everybody who's seen it has loved it. But it's a hard time for shows to come on Broadway right now. And we're asking, and we're imploring you, if you were touched by anything that happened on the stage tonight, if you were touched, if you were moved, if you understood, we ask that you please share this experience with somebody. We thank you for being here. We thank you for coming. And now, we're kindly implore you to have somebody else experience this experience. We're leaving our blood, our souls on this stage. We're bringing our ancestors on this stage with us. And we can feel them every night, 8 times a week. And we're pouring them into a space where they've never been poured before. And we just ask that you please let them continue to be in the midst. We ask that you please let the work continue to be the work. We ask that you please help us change what Broadway looks like. It doesn't have to be what it always is.
What is that feeling like? What was going through your mind at that time?
I think it was devastating, mainly because I always say I was in my dressing room and I was still looking at opening night flowers and they on the phone telling me I gotta close. I'm like, the flowers ain't even there yet. Debbie Allen sent me some flowers. Can you let them die first? Can you let them die first? But I really was devastated, mainly because I felt like the show didn't get a shot. Now, and this is why I was fighting so hard. If I feel like I'm a playwright, I wrote a good play that got every resource possible thrown at it, and it didn't work, then I'm like, it just didn't work. But we believed in it, we did the thing. If I'm a playwright, I wrote a good play, and I don't feel like we got the resources that we deserved, I'm gonna say something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's a representation of not just my work, but how a lot of other works on Broadway are treated. You know what I mean? People don't know about it. They genuinely do not know about it. So they don't know they'll come support. Because it's like, what is that? We never even heard of it. Nobody reached out to us and said, Black folks, you gotta knock on their door and be like, hey, this is for you. And they'll be like, all right, we'll come out when we're ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, but you gotta reach out, and there was no outreach. There were no subway posters. You know what I mean? There was no poster on 125th and Lenox and or Church Ave. You know what I mean? There was nothing. And I think that is the work that has to be done is how to really shift the idea of what theater is, because I hate to see theater die on the legs that they've think is what's going to carry them into the future. But it's like, no, that was the past. That's what it looked like in the past, but we're moving into a new time, so we have to change the way we do things. We have to reach out to a new audience. Otherwise, you're going to be doing Bette Midler with Hello Dolly every 5 years, and that's what you're depending on to make money.
True.
You know?
So a lot of times there's always this thing that Black people are crabs in a barrel and all of that situation, but for you, in this particular space and time, Black Hollywood really rallied around you. You had Lena Waithe come out. You had Queen Latifah. You had the Smiths. You had Tyler Perry buying out. People were buying out theaters. What did you learn, or explain to me what was going on in that time when you're feeling all of this support and outreach?
That was amazing, because it really was God, and it really was, an example of what community looks like. No matter if you're Will Smith or if you Barbara Ann, who's just buying a ticket for somebody, but you live in Idaho and you know you can't afford to go to New York, but you buy a ticket and somebody hits you up in your inbox and say, hey, I would like to have a ticket, I can't afford to see it. That is community, really, where we say, hey, no, this is art that belongs here. We all deserve to see it. This is the kind of work we want to see, and we're going to do whatever we have to show you that this is the kind of work that needs to be seen, you know? And I was so humbled by it, because I felt like, as disappointed as I was that the show didn't get to run the way that it needed to run, it really felt like it made the statement that it needed to make. You know what I mean? And just to see so much love of people that I never even met, you know what I mean, being like, no, this is a good show, and we're gonna make sure it stays. You know, that's just, you don't see that kind of community, especially in a commercial space like Broadway. That's never happened before. Never happened before. We are in our final week of the show. We were the highest grossing play on Broadway.
That's crazy.
Wild.
Is that something that can do a revival? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we're in the midst of trying to see if we can get something up, because we have to film it. We have to film it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, you didn't even get a chance to
yeah,
film
we
it.
didn't even get a chance to film it. So
Wow.
So we trying to see if we can get it up somewhere and make something happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that ends, and you go back. It's time to do your third season of Miss Pat. What is it that's different in this season than it's been in your last 2 seasons?
Oh, this season is pure funny. One, I'm directing more this season, but also it's just pure funny. It's literally, I call it the I Love Lucy season.
Okay.
Because it's just classic comedy
Right.
mixed with like hard conversations, but somehow you're still like falling over laughing while we talk about the darkest thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really a Black family drama that will have you laughing out loud.
Right.
That's really what the show is. And I think that this season, we just get richer and richer with each season. The more, like each season has its own purpose. And I think that the purpose of this season, other than the character arcs and the growths and the pains and the struggles, but really it's just to like be pure comedy, like pure comedy. It's like you're watching Carol Burnett show. It's like you're watching I Love Lucy. It's like you're watching Martin. It's one of those old school sitcoms with a new school twist. Yeah.
How did you know Tammy Roman had the chops to be, because she's amazing in this.
Hello, my name is Tyrese Porter. I'm from the Harriet Tubman Education Group Scholarship Office.
Hi, I'm Janelle, and this is my mom.
Hi, I'm Pat.
Oh, pleasure. And this must be Terry. Janelle has said so many wonderful things about her parents. You know, this is exactly the Black diversity we're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. Black diversity.
What the hell?
This woman right here is my soulmate. My spoonful of sugar. Oh, ball and chain. And she the ball.
Well, it's great to meet you both.
Mom?
Yes.
It's nice to meet you, Mr. Porter. Don't get no ideas about my wife. She eats pussy.
I'm not just a L. You know, I'm a LGBTQ.
I see.
Yeah, remember the B is for bisexual. Or as I like to call it, be patient.
And it makes you wonder why she never had other opportunities way before now.
This is the thing about Terry Roman. One, I never knew her reality show side.
Okay.
I never knew Basketball Wives. I never knew Real World. I never seen it a day in my life.
Okay.
How I knew Tammy was it was when I wrote the character. A few months earlier, I was watching her Bonnet Chronicles.
Okay.
Who aggravate me sometimes? The damn nail lady. It's like you go when you're trying to have a little downtime, a little you time, you know, and this bitch want to ask you 100,000 questions. Where you from? You got boyfriend? You got kids? You live around here? Bitch, none of that is relevant to what I am here to do today. Okay, we are not friends. It's like, you look tired. Bitch, I am tired. Tired of you asking me a million questions. It's like, I need you to hustle up. I want to be out of here in 40 minutes or less. Okay, it's like she's trying to justify that $60 she about to charge you by making it a low-key therapy session. Bitch, I'm not here for it. I don't need therapy from somebody who knows 10 good English phrases. You cannot advise and counsel me. Okay, it's like, move along. Then it's like pedicure, special pedicure. Bitch, they're both the same. You're gonna half-ass both of them. So give me the cheaper of 2 options. What you gonna do, slather a little more paraffin in the bag? Cool it, bitch. Okay, then when she do the pedicure, she start talking in her language, just like, bitch, don't play me. Okay, I walk barefoot and I wear flip-flops most of the time. I know my heel is rough. You can talk in English like you just was when you was asking me my motherfucking business.
And she had one video that just had me hollering. And I said to everybody I knew, and I was like, I gotta work with her. I don't know who she is, but I gotta work with her. I gotta work with her. So when I wrote the character of Denise, I was like, Pat, I know who your sister is. She was like, who? I was like, Tammy Roman. She was like, what? Can she act? I was like, no, she can act. I could tell she can act. So she came in to audition, blew everybody out of the water. Like just amazing. She's a comedic genius. Like she's amazing. And the thing about Tammy Roman is that she comes on that set. She reminds me of Lucille Ball in the sense of like Lucille Ball was like, she never ad-libbed. Tammy never ad-libs. What she will do is she will take what you have on that page and she will take what you tell her and milk it for the most of the, she So
none of that's ad-lib, that's her sticking straight to...
None of it is ad-lib. She just delivers it so damn well.
Oh, wow.
And this is my theory about Tammy. My theory about Tammy is that I think she came to LA in the 90s, and I think that she wanted to be an actress, and I think nobody was hiring her, and then all of a sudden this new thing called reality TV is like, oh, we're doing a show called The Real World. You want to be a part of it? She's like, sure, it's got show in the title. I'll do it and make some money.
And she's in the early part, so she doesn't even know what comes with all that.
Exactly. She doesn't. There's no such thing as a reality show at that point. You know what I mean? And so I think that she got sucked into that world and became kind of like used in that world. When it was like, I think when you watch the Miss Pat show, you see her purpose. You're watching her walk in her purpose because she is so sublime. It's like a chef's kiss for a comedian. It's a chef's kiss, and the way that she's able to work with Pat and their chemistry and how they work together, and it's comedy gold.
How was y'all's first meeting?
Who? Me and Pat? Me and Tammy? We first met in her audition.
Oh, really?
We first met in her audition. And Pat knew that I had been wanting her. And then we didn't really actually have a conversation until after she was hired.
So what did she say when she found out that this 27-year-old is the one that's rooting for her to be? What was
I
her?
know. She was so happy. She was just really happy and really like grateful and really excited. And like she's so humble and she's so sweet. Like that's why it's like when people are like basketball, I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
She was a rough one.
Listen, I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
I watched basketball. She was one that would shake the table.
Listen, which is crazy to me. Cause it's like that's not who I know it. Also, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But like, she comes to work and she's just a consummate professional. Like, so nice, but like also down for the cause. Like her and Pat are literally sisters. Like there is no drama. There is no like it's pure joy. It's pure joy. Yeah, that's why I'm so good. I hope she gets what she deserves out of this show. I hope she gets an Image nomination or an Emmy nomination or something, because like the work that she puts into that show, all of us, Pat, everybody, but like there's something about the supporting actress aspect of a comedy that is so integral, and I think
because they sort of, I mean, even though it's always that lead, it's something about the
about Saki. I was just talking about this. I was just talking about this with. I was saying it's a sitcom thing because when you think about the Jeffersons, right?
Yeah, Florence.
George Jefferson was the star of the show, but Florence was the sidekick, and you like always waited for those one-liners. Yeah. But whenever Marla Gibbs got 227. You weren't looking to Marla Gibbs. Nope. You were looking to Jack Kay and what Jack Kay was going to. It's like a sitcom thing. It's like the Honeymooners. Like Jackie Gleason is the star of the show, but you were waiting for Homeboy with the hat and where he was going. You know what I mean?
Will and
Grace,
it's like Karen and
literally Karen. It's the same thing. It's like everybody works. It's like a sitcom ensemble is like an orchestra. Everybody plays different instruments, but you're all playing this one beautiful sound. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happens in the Miss Pat show. It's like everybody's so funny. Every single person is so funny. It's crazy. Okay. It's crazy.
So I have two more questions.
Yes.
Well, maybe two. But tell me about working with Lee Daniels. What's that experience? What is your biggest lesson when you think about Lee Daniels that comes to your mind?
Leaving the door open. He really showed me how to invest in the next and make room for those who don't have resources. Like, he literally gave me a television show. He literally said, you want to do that? Go ahead, do it. I don't want nothing to do with it. Go ahead, do it. You know what I mean? He's never like, he's never been to set. It's literally my show. But the fact that he trusted me enough to be like, I think you can do this, go away and do it. And I'm gonna clear everything out your path to make sure you can do it. That to me it just showed me what to do for whoever's coming next or whatever's coming next, and continue to create space for new talent and new artistry and new voices, you know?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so what else is it that's in Jordan that we have yet to see? Like, because most of your stuff has been comedic, but is there a serious side that you?
You know what's so crazy is I never considered myself a comedic writer.
Really?
Not until the Miss Pat show. That's when I was like, okay, I just like comedies, and I gotta accept the fact that I like comedies, right. Because it's like everything that I write is usually dramatic. Everything is usually dramatic laced with comedy, which is what I think that life is. And so I always approach like I always approach everything as if it's a tragedy, and then the comedy just like comes on top. Because I feel like that's where the richest stories lie.
True.
You know what I mean? So
Did you ever feel like some of Miss Pat's stuff was really too dark?
Never.
Oh my God.
For some reason, I was always able to see the light in it. I was always just like she was able to see the light in it and survive. You know, like I was always like in season 2 we did a molestation episode that was like, it was hard to do, but somehow it was harrowing. It had you crying, but it also had you crying and laughing with the same tear.
Right.
You know, and I think that is my ministry. Like, how do we do both at the same time?
Things.
Exactly, because it's through comedy that people will actually listen and people will actually accept it, what it is you're trying to say. You just shove it in their face, they're like, all right. You know what I mean? But if you're like, it's a Trojan horse. It's like you hide the comedy in that Trojan horse and you go in, you know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, dang. You know what I mean? Like, now I actually got to listen to what you had to say because you had me laughing.
Right.
You know?
Okay. And my last question is, I always ask everyone that does my show, what does Jordan Cooper find beauty in?
I find beauty in people. I find beauty in human beings and the God in human beings. Come on. Like literally, because I think that is literally the root of why I want to work and why I do what I do, is because I'm constantly trying to express the beauty of humanity. Okay. That is like what the goal is finding, bit by bit, biting away at what humanity is and where the God is in humanity, you know?
It's beautifully and well said. I love it. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank
you
for having me. Absolutely.
I mean, when I tell you, I asked you, you was like, I got you. And
Let's
you made
do
it
it.
happen.
Let's
like,
do it.
And it ain't like he's somewhere sitting twiddling his thumbs. He actually made it happen, so I greatly appreciate you. Where can we find you? I will say, go ahead and make sure you get your BET Plus.
Yes, BET Plus. Even if you gotta get that free trial, and you know, but get it. Even if you gotta get Pookie password, you know, you comment on the YouTube. If I see the right comment, I'm gonna slide you my password.
Okay. I ain't mad at it. Mine too. Mine too.
Listen.
I got it already.
Come on.
So and definitely on Instagram.
Absolutely, Instagram. Too? Yeah, Jordan E. Cooper, all one word. On Twitter, Jordan E. Cooper _.
All right. Thank you so much.
Guys,
see you next
thanks
time.
for having me.
Behind the